Well, I think it's important that we communicate accurate information. I don't think it's appropriate to take a map like the Harvard map, do political polling, change the metrics, and then push false information to the public. I think you have to put public health above politics. And unfortunately, our governor hasn't done that. He's made sure that every step that he's made, he's polled it first and then adjusted the map accordingly. I wouldn't have done that as governor. We've got to make sure that we're communicating accurate information. I don't want anything to be shut down. I want our kids back in school, but I want parents to have accurate information so they can make the decision in a lot of counties whether or not they're going to send them in person or do virtual learning. But we have to give them the accurate information. Yeah, one of the biggest issues that we've had and voters have expressed to me is they're really confused by the maps. They're concerned about the maps. You know, they don't know whether, which they're supposed to look at, the school map or other map or the Harvard map. And a lot of times they'll see 3 of them on the news or 3 of them in their social media feeds. And so it's been very confusing. We need a governor who's going to be consistent. We need a governor who's going to be concise, someone who can communicate a plan and, have the constituents respond accordingly. Well, as a county commissioner, I've been in the pandemic since day one. And so I've made sure that we're working with our health departments, working with the National Guard, setting up drive-through testing, making sure that folks have PPE. And so we've been involved heavily testing our nursing home residents, testing the African American community, doing everything that we can do. But one of the things that we have to do, and only the governor can do this because he decided not to call in the legislature, we have to get that CARES Act money out. We've got to make sure that it's going to our small businesses, that we're keeping people employed, and make sure that our economy is growing. But he's not going to do that if you're sitting on $980 million of the $1.25 billion. He's been holding that money back. It needs to get out there, and so it can help the people that are hurting the most. Well, it's earmarked one day and then changes another day. You remember that he initially reserved $700 million for unemployment claims. Then all of a sudden there's only $300 million. He initially said $100 million for COVID-related highway expenses, whatever that is. Then he changed it to $50 million. So it's a moving target, and there's really no plan. There's definitely no consistency. People are confused, and unfortunately, we're the ones that are suffering. Businesses are closing every day. He's not doing anything to help that, to get that money out, and he's playing games with our money. You know what? North Central West Virginia is an economic engine for the entire state of West Virginia, and so we have to put resources back in to make sure that it continues to thrive and continues to grow. We need, the aerospace industry to thrive here. We've got to make sure that we're growing it. All of that money is flowing south on 79. None of it's coming back up here. So we're going to make sure that we do that. We're going to invest in North Central West Virginia. We're going to fix our infrastructure, make sure that we have good connectivity, broadband and cellular connectivity throughout North Central West Virginia, and make it continue to thrive because it's going to continue to be an economic engine. We've got to make sure that we're fixing our infrastructure. You're not going to be able to have good businesses come in, new industry come in, if your roads are full of potholes, if your bridges are unsafe, if you don't have connectivity throughout. And so we've got to make those investments. West Virginia overwhelmingly passed the Roads to Prosperity bond by about 73 to 75%, over $2 billion. Only a couple $100 million of it's been spent. So we've got to make sure that we're working on our secondary roads. We've got to make sure that we're fixing our infrastructure, fixing our bridges, and that way we can attract new industry. We've also got to have connectivity throughout West Virginia, either low flying satellites like SpaceX or through broadband running the lines. So we've got to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to have new jobs come in. We've got to have somebody out marketing every day. We've got to have somebody who's working full-time, working hard from day one, not just 30 days before an election. We've got to have somebody that's working hard all 4 years, marketing West Virginia to new industries, marketing to businesses, bringing them in. We also have to attract people to come and live here and work anywhere they want to work in the world. They can work in the big cities, but live in paradise. They can come here, work here, and work remotely. We've got to attract those people in and try to help with our population decline. We've lost about 57,000 people over the last 4 years. That's enough to almost completely fill Mountaineer Field. And so we've got to make sure that we offer opportunities, vocational training, technical training, good paying jobs. We've got to make sure that college is affordable, and that's how you keep your young people here. Otherwise, when they graduate from high school, their options are Pittsburgh or Charlotte or Columbus. They're all leaving here. We need them to stay here. I have 2 boys, ages 13 and 18. I want them to stay here. I want their kids to stay here. We're not going to do that if we have a part-time governor who's not marketing West Virginia appropriately. You know what, I have business experience. I own a number of small businesses. I'm also a government official in the state's largest county. And so we were able to, diversify the economy. We've had business startup programs that have been very successful. We've been successful in diversifying with regard to sports tourism, bringing in tech jobs. Those are the types of things that I've been able to do as commissioner. I can do that all over the state of West Virginia. I've been able to grow jobs even in the area that's been hit the hardest by the decline of coal. So we can do that all over West Virginia if we have somebody who's focused on it. You know what, I'll never turn my back on coal miners, never. I'm from a family of coal miners. I was one of the first to not go underground. And so, but I think we need to be looking at all forms of energy. We need to make sure that we are marketing appropriately, bringing in new industries to diversify. If you go out and talk to coal miners, the majority of them, they don't want their kids to be coal miners. They don't want them to have black lung. They don't want them to have bad backs and unable to get up in the morning because of all the problems they've had. They want them to have other opportunities. So we need somebody that's going to absolutely champion that and bring in those other opportunities. That's what I'll do as governor. I'll never turn my back on coal miners, but I'll also make sure there are other opportunities. You know what, I think that, first of all, they're right. A lot of the areas of West Virginia have been ignored. During my campaign, I've visited virtually every county. I've been to north central West Virginia 14, 15 times so far. So we need a governor that's focused on all of West Virginia, not just where his businesses are. We've got to have somebody who's focused on every county in north central West Virginia, expanding what you guys have going on here, which is going well, and making sure that we're connecting all of rural West Virginia also with broadband and cellular connectivity. We need a governor that's paying attention to all 55 counties, not just 2 or 3. As a commissioner, I've been able to cross party lines. I've been able to work with independents and Republicans and Democrats. I've been able to bring people together. So we need a governor who's going to bring people together, not tear them apart. That's what I'll be able to do as governor. That's what I've done as county commissioner. One of the things we need is a governor who's going to keep his promises. In 2016, this governor campaigned against right to work, and he also campaigned against charter schools, yet he signed the bill for right to work, and then he called a special session for charter schools. We need a governor who's going to keep his promises, somebody who's going to stand up for working families and advocate for working families. Under my administration, working families, educators, school service personnel, public employees, they're going to have a seat at the table. In this governor's administration, they don't. Well, we've got to make sure that we're helping with PEIA, which is a big concern that they have. There is no permanent funding solution for PEIA. They had a task force that hasn't met, I think, since January of 2019. So we've got to make sure that we're focusing on the issues that public employees have and not just, brushing them aside and claiming that you fixed everything. Nothing's been fixed. Teachers had to strike to get pay raises. We've got to make sure that we're paying attention to all of our public employees.